Welcome, everybody. This is Coding with Bryan, season awesome episode. I don't really know what it's going to be called yet. As usual, we will figure that out at the end of the episode with help from you, the loyal Coding with Bryan listeners, viewers. Viewers? We don't have any listeners, do we, for this show? This is video only, right? Good, because I don't like people who can't see. I take a firm stance. I'm bigoted against people who are blind. I'm actually not, but for the sake of this episode and the rest of this hour, I will be bigoted against blind people. So if you're blind, feel free to call in and argue with me about it. Of course, this is a live call-in show. We do all the call-in via Skype. My Skype handle is Bryan Lunduke, all one word. You can see us, if you're listening to it, obviously it's a little too late to call in. But if you're catching it live, you can call in. It's the thing. It's a trade-off. It's good times. So we got the chat room going on right now. You can see on the lower part of the screen. If you are watching it again, not live, you do not get to be in the chat room. Whereas if you are watching it live, the inverse. See that? All right. So today we got a couple of topics to cover. It's going to be a little bit different show than we normally have. I am not going to kick this off with talking about mobile app development. I'm not going to kick this off with talking about, Mono or .NET or Cocoa or any other development thing. We're going to go a little metaphorical this episode. Sometime back, a good friend of the show's named Jeremy, who oftentimes sits behind the camera and does all these clickety-clicketies and whatnots. Jeremy, get your hand out of the camera. Not cool. Not cool, man. Not cool. Sent me this email, and he titled it, and let me read this to you so I make sure I get this right. Okay, come on, Gmail, respond. I'll tell you guys what, if Gmail and Google Docs screw up on me one more time, this episode is going to be completely about how much I hate Google. But for right now, this is entitled Open in Case of Emergency. And the emergency being, of course, if no one calls in and I just can't think of anything else to talk about. But honestly, I really like this topic, so we're going to make this an important thing, and we're just going to kick the whole show off with it. Now, after I read this off to you, and I begin to discuss my response to this email from our good friend Jeremy, feel free to Skype in with your own thoughts on the matter. I'm definitely open because I think that this is going to spark some lively and intense debate, ladies and gentlemen, because this is important stuff. This is not like, what's better, Mac versus Windows, blah, 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 versus Linux. That's not what this is about. This is bigger. This is headier stuff. All right, let's dive into this. After I have a sip of Wild Cherry Pepsi, which is just delicious, I just have to say. I would like to point out that Coding with Bryan has not ever been, and does not seem to ever will be, sponsored by anyone, despite my massive quantities of corporate plugs. I'm trying here, though, you guys. I'm trying. You got to give me credit for that. That is pretty good, actually. All right. Here's this email from Jeremy. Hypothetical situation. You are hired to be a programming manager. Seriously, Jeremy, programming manager? Jeremy has no idea what the right words are. You are hired to be a programming manager of some sort. Assume you have power. He spelled it P-O-W-A-H, which gives him specialness, at a brand new MMO gaming company. This company has somehow obtained the rights to publish an MMO based on any of the following genres, but only has sufficient financial backing to do one. In the series of meetings set aside to decide which game to produce, which do you push for and why? Now, again, this is from the point of view of the guy who is going to be heading up the development, whether it be the director of development or one of the managers. Also describe a gameplay concept that you would like to see implemented. We'll get to that momentarily. Now, I know that this is Coding with Bryan, so we're going to approach this from the coding point of view. This meeting, there are three choices that are going to come here. That means that we also need to approach which of these choices do we make, and what language should they therefore be developed in from a philosophical point of view. So, hold with me. Your choices are, number 1, He-Man, Masters of the Universe. A good choice. Number 2, G.I. Joe, a real American hero. Also a good choice. And number 3, Transformers, robots in disguise. Really good choice. For the purpose of this question, you can feel free to disregard anything that is live action or CGI in terms of, basing the actual concept on it. So, now again, you are not the head of the company. You are just the development manager. But you get to start arguing on which to pursue, and then you have to come up with a good reason why the company needs to pursue it from the development point of view, which basically means you need to convince them that whichever one you want the most is going to be the easiest and cheapest to develop. This is where it gets to be fun, in my opinion, mostly because I want to talk about the battle between Transformers, G.I. Joe, and He-Man. Now, the first thing I want to jumpstart with is it's not going to be He-Man. And the reason it's not going to be He-Man is because of Orko. Now, Orko is a little bitch. Let's just be honest with that. I don't know what he is. If you know He-Man, if you're 30 years old or so, you know what I'm talking about. He seems to have powers, right, Jeremy? But like not much. He floats. Orko floats. He's like a little midget in a dress, and he floats around, and he's got like an O on his shirt, so you remember that his name is Orko. Like seriously, he's like a foot tall. He's in a tiny red dress. He has no real head. And there's no one that looks even remotely like him, and you're going to somehow forget that he's Orko? Like you're going to confuse him with the other little midget floating around in a red dress in He-Man. That doesn't make any sense to me at all, and that is why I'm not going to choose He-Man. Now, He-Man could be a lot of fun, but Orko. Seriously? Orko? Plus... the bad guys in He-Man are freaking ridiculous. There's like Man-at-Arms and dude, what was that guy that was an ant? You remember what I'm talking about? There was like this guy that was like this big ant, and he has like pieces that come off of him. It was stupid. This is why you don't remember him, because it was stupid. So we're just simply not going to choose that. Now you notice we didn't even get into coding topics there, because this is a metaphorical, philosophical, and moral and ethical debate here. Orko is just too awful to even consider. That's all it is. So it's really coming back down to Transformers versus G.I. Joe. Now, we need to disregard current Transformers and G.I. Joe movies. While I enjoyed the current Transformers movies, we can't just do that. We what are we going to do? Make you Shia LaBeouf in the video game? Come on, that's ridiculous. Are you going to be Bumblebee in the video game? Well, if you're going to be Bumblebee in a video game, you want to be a little tiny Volkswagen Bug, right? You don't want to be like technically like, I don't know what the hell kind of car was that? I think it was a Mustang. Was it a Mustang? I don't know. It was not that interesting. Or like Jazz, though Jazz died in the first movie, but like Jazz wasn't like a little cop car. He was just like this retarded Porsche or something. I don't know. It just wasn't that interesting. So it's a Camaro. That's right. Mustang was a Camaro. Or Bumblebee was a Camaro. Mustang was a Camaro. Apples were oranges. I have no idea what's going on right now. So we got to disregard the live action stuff. And the live action G.I. Joe, let's be honest right here. That was ridiculous. That was an absolutely ridiculous film. It was kind of fun, though. I kind of enjoyed it. But they were friggin', like, even if you didn't see the movie, you saw the previews for it, and they were, like, dodging missiles being launched at them in the streets, and they were like, whoa, dude, move to the left. There's no missile there. And it was ridiculous. That was the whole thing. And they just didn't have the tood of the original 1980s one. You know what I mean? The 1980s G.I. Joes, they had tood. The reason I like the idea of G.I. Joes over Transformers is character creation. Now, this is also a plus for G.I. Joe. Transformers, if you're gonna do character creation, that means that you've got to kind of be able to create custom Transformers, right? I mean, you don't want to just hop in there and be one of 6 cars that can turn into robots. That's lame if there's 1,000 that look just like you. Though, like Cliff Jumper and Bumblebee were like the same thing, but one was yellow, one was red. But you know, we won't get into that. But just the same, you don't want like 1,000 Bumblebees running around. You want to come in and you'd be like, you know what? I want to be like this custom, weird, funky looking car with a crane attached to the back, and then I turn into a robot. But that's going to get really complicated to build and really difficult to build. And let's be honest, as developers, we're inherently lazy and probably don't want to do that. So let's look back over the G.I. Joe side of things. G.I. Joe character creation is going to be a lot like character creation in like World of Warcraft or Champions or anything else. You're going to go off a simple humanoid stock, probably built in Poser or something. But the cool thing is, you know that one of the default presets is going to be like, what sort of facial hair do you want? And there's going to be like 80,000 options of different mustaches. And that's really cool. There's not enough mustache options in current video gaming. I've had this problem myself. I have a character. I play Champions Online a little bit when their servers will let me in, which we will get back to in a minute if I don't get not pissed off at it about it in a minute. And I have this character that I call Kenny Rogers in the game. Now obviously, Kenny Rogers in game needs to look as much like real Kenny Rogers as possible, including full, beautiful, trimmed white beard thing, right? In game, that doesn't exist. The only thing I can do is give him really huge mutton chops, which, while it gets the point across, doesn't look quite right. So what was I talking about, Jeremy?
Facial hair.
Facial hair, right. So now facial hair, here's the thing. Facial hair is easier to do because you can just really build that system and then slough off all the work to the art department and just make them deliver to you 50,000 different, little 3D objects for the facial hair. That's perfect. And then you can be known as the massively multiplayer online game that can have the most options for hillbilly-looking characters. And I think that would spur sales somehow. I think. I'm not certain of this, but I think that you can make that argument. And you can also say that it'd be cheaper developed that way. Mustaches is all I'm saying. Now, if you had Transformers, you can't really do mustaches on Transformers. And I think that's an immediate knock against doing a Transformers game. Unless you're playing Shia LaBeouf, in which case, I guess you can't have mustaches there either. I don't think Shia LaBeouf can grow facial hair. I think that's the rule, right? Dude, seriously, that guy looks like 12. What is going on with his lack of facial hair? I want to see a Shia LaBeouf film where he's been in like an Asian prison in the middle of nowhere in the 1800s for like 3 weeks. I want it to be like the opening to Batman Begins, and he's like busting out, but he's like all got the scraggly, patchy facial hair. That would be kind of rad. Because I don't think he can do it. I just don't think he can do it. Shia, if you're listening, and I'm sure you are, prove me wrong by sending me a picture of you with ridiculous facial hair. And we will put it up on the website at jupiterbroadcasting.com, which I'm sure you attend every day. So that's what I'd go with. That's how I would make it happen. I would go G.I. Joe solely on the purpose of easy to develop facial hair character creation. This doesn't even get into, you'll notice, gameplay. Because, come on, who plays these massive multiplayer games to play the game anymore? Like, if you play Star Trek Online, you're going to do it just so you can have a ship with like a thing that says the SS poops a lot on the front. Or, if you play Champions Online, you do it just so you can be like a girl in a bikini or something. That's why Chris plays it. And so that's what you do it for, right? Come on. So mustaches, cowboy hats, kerchiefs, which is a great word that's not used enough in the English language, in my opinion. Those are the reasons to develop G.I. Joe. That's how it happens. If you disagree, call in right now. The Skype line is open. My name is Bryan Lunduk, all one word in Skype. And let me know, do you agree? Do you disagree? I want to hear it. And while I wait for that, I'm again going to take a drink of... Here's the problem. I want to drink from the left side here, but when I do that, all you can see is the nutrition facts, and I want it to be this big, like, me plugging Pepsi thing. So I gotta drink from this side here. But it's actually kind of hard. They've set it up so that I have to hold it like this, but the mouth is actually over here. So I'm like drinking it kind of... They screwed this up totally. They've got to make custom cans just to pimp the product, where they actually put the lid on the right direction. Either that or I picked a retard can. I got the retard can of Wild Cherry Pepsi. That's actually all I've got today. So thanks everyone for joining us. No, I'm just kidding. All right. I actually got a couple more questions I'm going to jump to. But seriously, if you have an opinion on this topic, because I think this is critical. This is Western society at a crossroads, ladies and gentlemen. And if we don't get this figured out, who's gonna? I don't know the answer to that. All right, I got a question here, or a topic suggestion. Oh, actually, this is kind of a cool one. I think we've talked about this briefly on the Computer Action Show. But Matt kind of writes in, generally talking about what Adobe is doing with Flash on the iPhone. And I kind of want to. I don't want to talk about mobile development too much here, but this is kind of interesting. Um, so basically, what Adobe has done is they said that basically Flash CS5, basically the next version of Flash Pro, um, if you're an iPhone, a registered iPhone developer, you will actually be able to have a project type that will allow you to develop a Flash ActionScript application and compile it to native code, theoretically, kind of native code for iPhones, which is kind of cool. I find that interesting from a couple of standpoints. One, it's kind of cool to be able to, expand the platforms you can hit. It was already kind of cool that, Flash had added Flex, which is, kind of a nice framework that sits on top of Flash for doing cool development for the website of things. But then they opened it up to being able to develop Air applications, which, are the same applications that you get in the browser except on the desktop, like TweetDeck's a good example, or Twirl. It seems like all the applications are all Twitter based though. What's up with that? Why doesn't someone make a really cool application with it? They're all just about Twitter. So that's really cool. But now opening up to actually develop a custom iPhone app is extra cool. However, iPhones still have no native Flash support. So you can use Flash CS5 to develop iPhone native applications, get them into the iPhone App Store, et cetera, et cetera. Awesome. But the built-in iPhone web browser, still no Flash support. No plan for Flash support. There's no announced coming Flash support. That seems insane to me that that's the case. Whereas, and here's what I find crazy. On the Flex side of things, for Air applications, you can actually embed a WebKit browser and a WebKit view into your Flex or Flash applications that are Air, the desktop ones. That means that you can build a WebKit-based web browser with full Flash support in Flash and make a desktop app out of it. Now, theoretically, that means if they supported the same thing on the iPhone side of things, you could build a web browser in Flash that supported Flash and used WebKit just like Apple's Safari for the iPhone. But because of the Apple's licensing that says you can't release an application that duplicates built-in iPhone functionality, such as the web browser, that means that you can't actually release it. So the technology is now going to be there, but Apple won't let you have it. And I find that interesting from my point of view. All right, let's go back here. What do we got? A Twilight MMORPG, the Ringmaster apparently wants. I'm not sure why, and that's not part of the question. You've got to limit it to the 3 options available, my friend. But if you have an idea on that particular topic, again, let's call into the Skype line. That's Bryan Lunduke. Sir Alphamon asks, well, isn't Flash an interpreting runtime? Actually, no, it's not. It used to be. So here's kind of an interesting tidbit. Old Flash was based on a language called ActionScript. Well, it still is, but it's a different version. So ActionScript 2 was interpreted in most cases. ActionScript 3 is JIT compiled in most cases. What that means is you get on the native side of things. I mean, it's still compiled at launch at runtime, so it's not like it's pre-compiled, but it's still not an interpreted language. The cool thing is that ActionScript 3 is the same language as that version of ECMAScript, which is JavaScript 2, both of which are very, very nice JavaScript-ish languages. If you like JavaScript, it works pretty well, that are JIT compiled. What's cool about that is you can either write ActionScript 3 applications on the Flash and Flex side of things, or you can write JavaScript 2 applications that are also JIT compiled that run in Firefox. I don't know if there's any JIT compilers for JavaScript 2 for anything other than Firefox, though, and I think it's got to be current versions of Firefox to make that happen. So it's really not too bad. JB Viewer 6, I'm writing a Flash plus Silverlight IDE. I'm calling it Fleshlight. That's cool. I'm drinking Wild Cherry Pepsi, so we're doing pretty much the same thing. All right. Double crossover for an MMO called The World of Hasbro. Hmm. Doesn't Chrome, Sir Alphaman asks again, doesn't Chrome have something like that from the JIT compiling for the JavaScript side? I'm not exactly sure how Chrome's JavaScript engine works in that regard. I know it's one of the faster JavaScript engines out there, but it's JavaScript, it's not JavaScript 2, I don't believe. Um, at least that's not what they've been focusing on. I mean, not with the marketing. With the marketing, they've been focusing on JavaScript 1 performance. They might have a JavaScript 2 engine in there, but I haven't heard a whole lot about it. The only people that have really been making like big waves in that regard have been the Firefox team, which has kind of been their deal. Bryan is ignoring the horror that is Shia LaBeouf facial hair. No, trust me, I'm not ignoring it at all. I'm finding it hard to even produce words out of my mouth right now because the idea is stuck in my head. Yeah, the world of Hasbro would actually be a fairly interesting game. So take all Hasbro toys, boom, MMO. That's actually not terribly bad. Really, a Lego's MMO, someone mentions it in there, is an incredible idea, really. A lot of crafting. Yeah, it's be character creation would be bucket, build something. It's all built with like Lego Mindstorms. In order to move around the world, you actually have to code it like you would in a Lego Mindstorms robot. That actually would be a very, very nerdy and very, very wonderful game. I would love the heck out of that. All right. All right. That's that's pretty much a load of good time is what's happening. Yeah. That's about that, huh? You know what I'm saying? All right. So again, the lines are open, and this typically happens. We do the show. How far in are we, Jeremy? We're about 20 some minutes.
Yeah.
About 20 some minutes. That means in about 8 minutes, all of a sudden, the Skype channel, the Skype call line will start lighting up nonstop. But it will be 8 minutes before anyone calls. We really got to start like doing the pre-show. We started talking about that after the last show. We're like, dude, we should just talk for like a half hour, get people warmed up. Yeah, and then kick it off. But we didn't actually do that. Wait a minute, Lego Universe. Is that a real thing? There is a Legos MMO being made called Lego Universe, according to this. And immediately Jeremy's like behind the camera and he's like, what? He's starting to look for it. Oh man, that would be so rad. It'd be rad if the Legos Universe game wasn't like you couldn't actually build anything with Legos. It was just like those run around and hit things Legos games that we have for all the consoles currently, except there's a lot of people hitting things and that's it. That would make me laugh to no end. But
It's not an MMO, it's a multiplayer online game.
oh, okay. Wait. MMO and multiplayer.
It's not massively.
Oh, it's not massive. Sorry, I missed the fact that there was no massive in front of that. I like that massive has become a technical term in the gaming industry. You can have a multiplayer game and a multiplayer online game, but unless it says massive, that's a whole different thing. What if there was a Ginormous, a GMO?
No.
Ginormous multiplayer online?
It's not the same genre then, Bryan.
No, that's what I'm saying, Jeremy. I know it's not the same genre.
You could invent your own genre that way.
You know what? We're gonna do it right here. It's gonna be the GMOs, the Ginormous multiplayer online game. Yeah, good times. Good times. Well, heck, you guys, you know what? I just learned something today. I learned that there's a Star Wars multiplayer online game without any Legos. I don't know what I'm saying anymore. I was thinking of Lego Star Wars and Legos Indiana Jones, which is just run around and hit things until those little Lego circles fall off and you treat them like they're gems, which, whatever. All right, the lines are open. Now, of course, you do not have to ask me questions about Shia LaBeouf facial hair or which MMO you would propose to your team that you start developing. But I would recommend it because they're good ways to go. But if you have general questions at all, or would like to talk about anything or related to Flash and iPhone development, feel free to jump on the line as well. Now, When you're developing game, so let's say we pick GI Joe. What language do we develop that in? You know what I mean? I mean, Fortran, please. They're soldiers. Soldiers don't need to know math, and Fortran's all about math. Jeremy over here, this guy, he has no idea what he's talking about, guys. He's just whipping that out. Fortran, can't develop that in Ada. I think it should be small talk. He doesn't know. He doesn't know. Everyone, please make fun of Jeremy in the chat room. So now, yeah, so this is kind of a tough one. Now, take the technological matters out of it for a second. If we're developing a G.I. Joe game, ethically, what language should we use? Number one, should be really American. Like, it should just scream, America. You know what I mean? Because that's like the thing. It's G.I. Joe. They're a real American hero. Honestly, I'm gonna say Python is out. I like Python. Ruby's kind of cool too. Ruby's out. You know why? They feel too foreign. Yeah. You know what? I'm gonna say straight up. We're gonna go. I say we either go pure C, because come on, C is hardcore, and GI Joe is hardcore. Or, bear with me on this one. You go C#, and here's why. C# was developed by the man, Microsoft, right? He came up with this language. Microsoft just like, boom, everyone use this language because I'm the man. G.I. Joe, part of the army. They're the wing of the man. You know what I'm saying? They're from the government, kind of. But that's like their thing. So they're from the man. So I say C# with C plugins because they're the man, but they can also be hardcore. That's what I say we go with. If you disagree, real men code in binary. That's not a terribly bad point. It should all be an ASM. Yep. We'll do an assembly.
There was a question in the chat room. Scroll up a bit. What are your thoughts about
What do we got here?
for web development? Django?
Oh, Django. Django's nice. Now Django, from what I've seen, so Django, for those of you who haven't taken a look at it, it's spelled DJ Ango. So, Bing that. But basically, it's a JavaScript framework for developing fairly nice little not really rich internet applications, but very Web 2.0 apps. And it's a good basis. I'm kind of drawing a blank, but there are a lot of websites that are kind of building up using Django. I can't remember which ones are doing it now. But what's cool is if you go to Django's website, I believe they have a demo that you can grab, and the source is all available to it. But basically, it lets you build like a Twitter-like clone with a lot of Web 2.0-iness and all the standard Web 2.0 kind of animated goodness that you'd expect to get right out of the box. So if you want to build your own Twitter clone, it's really not a bad way to go. I think I actually did an article on building your own Twitter clone over on Lunduke.com a while back. I don't have the link handy, but if you search on Lunduke.com for Twitter clone, you'll probably find it. And I think there's a link in there to the Django demo that allows you to do kind of like a Twitter clone-y type thing, and it's actually pretty cool. I mean, it's pretty cool. I mean, if you're going to be doing, web development, you've got to start with one of the nice frameworks that are out there. There's a lot to be said for developing from scratch, but to be honest with you, I'm more of a fan of picking up a nice framework where someone's done a lot of the work for you, at least where it makes sense, to save yourself some time. So I do recommend checking out Django. It's kind of one of the bigger ones that are out there. Ooh, and a good point is made in the chat room. By Sir Alphamon once again. Ada was developed for the U.S. military, so that's not too shabby. That pleases me actually. So okay, for a G.I. Joe game, I might consider Ada. Rickeye asks, Bryan, do you have any suggestions for learning tools for someone that's trying to self-teach themselves their first programming language that is more of a visual learner? I've tried reading books on various languages, but I can't seem to keep focused on them for very long. You are not alone in that. Reading development books is not exactly the most exciting thing in the entire world. They're pretty dry reading. Every now and then I've come across a decent one, but they're pretty they're pretty hard to get through. Um, my basic recommendation is if you are going in it for the first time and you want to learn one language, pick your platform first that you want to be coding on, because whether Windows, Linux, OS 10, would have you, iPhone, doesn't really matter. And then pick the language. If you're going to be going, let's say web development, go like pick PHP or something like that. PHP is fairly simple to learn, and a lot of people use it. The good thing about going with a language that a lot of people use is it's really easy to go online, type in PHP tutorial, and you'll find a million tutorials on PHP, and with a lot of sample code. And that's really the key is you can read a 300-page book, and that's great. But if you're just trying to pick something up, you're just trying to throw together like a web form or a small desktop application that can open a text file or something just to kind of see what you can do and get your feet wet, reading a 300-page book is kind of overkill. Just hop into one of the tutorials, get some sample code, compile it and run it. Be amazed that you can hit the run button. First of all, that's kind of a big moment. And then just go through it line by line until you understand it. And by that, all you really got to do is look at a particular line, and it's making a function call. And you're like, well, what the heck does that even do? Well, copy it and paste it into Google or insert your favorite search engine here, and you'll get some results. And you'll usually get people in forums asking questions about it, or people in a tutorial recommending or telling you kind of how to use it. And you may get more information than you necessarily need, but you'll get it in a directed way, and you'll be actively engaged in actually working on and developing your particular piece of code and getting better at knowing how to develop in that language. So that's kind of the way I'd recommend, and I'd steer clear of the more obscure languages. Like Python is great, a really good one. There's lots of really, really great sample code that's out there. I probably wouldn't pick Ruby as your first language. While there's a lot of great books on Ruby and a lot of good sample code out there, there's not as much. So it's going to be a little bit more touch and go for a while. Yeah, Project Morris makes excellent point there. He says one of the best ways he learned was to start simple, get it to work, and then make it more difficult and move from success to success rather than blow out by trying something too difficult at first. Absolutely. If you pick a first application to cut your teeth on, do something that's just stupidly simple. I mean, you can have big, lofty goals. You can be like, I'm going to develop the best Office suite ever. You know what? Start with something that just opens a text file and you can type into it. Just start with that, and once you can get it to work, give yourself a good pat on the back, because that's a big step in your software development life. So that is definitely the right way to go. Now, I have a lot of software development books at home. You're not going to get away from picking up and reading software development books, but once you get more used to it, once you pick up your second or even third programming language, and you start to get comfortable with them, you're going to derive a little more enjoyment out of some of those books, simply because they'll be easier to follow, and they'll be speaking your language. So definitely start that way first. Yeah, exactly. Sir Alphamont, start with Notepad and slowly add everything to make it the next Microsoft Word. All right, we got Woodzan. What are the downfalls of Python then? It's simple to learn, so why doesn't it get used more often? Is it less powerful? Actually, so Python is an incredible language. We won't get into it right now. I think we covered a lot of Python in one of the previous episodes, but and I'm sure we will again. Python's a great language. The problems that Python has is that it's an interpreted language, for one. But it doesn't really compile down in such a way that you can release commercial apps for it. So it's really only been useful in the online application world, in which case there are some languages that are just better suited for development than Python there. Or for desktop applications in the open source world. You'll find a lot of Python apps like shipped with Ubuntu and the like. And that's awesome. But that's going to make it hard for a lot of big businesses to adopt Python, which means that a lot of people aren't really going to have the opportunity to work with Python or to enhance their Python skills, And then when they leave their current business and go into something else, they don't have the Python skills, so Python's just going to kind of sit there and flounder. You can do that. You can release compiled applications with Python. It is harder and it is limiting, and there are problems with it. But definitely, it's definitely worth checking out. But that's really one of the things. All right. JZA also mentions, yeah, but the issue is that Python is not being pushed by a commercial entity. Very, very true. And also there is a scale issue. Also very, very true. Also mentioned that Blender 2.5 has the GUI rewritten to use Python. Again, Python's very, very usable. But yeah, JZA is right. There's no commercial entity. There's no Microsoft. There's no Apple. There's no Sun, or I guess Oracle now. Are they fully bought by Oracle yet? I don't remember. They were gonna, and then I just suddenly lost interest in everything that Sun does. Why is that? Why do I have such a chip on my shoulder against Oracle? I mean, I have no reason to. I mean, Oracle's never really hurt me. They came out with. Is that what it is? I mean, I really don't. I mean, Oracle's headed up by Larry Ellison, which people in the technology world, if you've been around for the last 15 or so years, often lovingly refer to him as Crazy Larry. Back in the 90s, they wanted to have Oracle wanted to have the what's the word that I'm looking for all of a sudden? Gone, brain blarp. They wanted to have little terminal systems, so little light terminals, and some of the prototypes had his face on it. We shot on the boot screen, which is just hilarious. That would be like Windows starting up and having Bill Gates smiling at you in a maniacal way, which I honestly think would be awesome. I think that they should absolutely do that. The CEO of the company that makes an OS, they should have their face on the boot screen. That'd be fantastic. Yeah, thin clients. Thank you, guys. We were just talking about thin clients on the last episode of the Computer Action Show for a while, and no, I still can't remember that word. It's the easiest words to remember, but oh well. So Spitfire is saying the EU is still hung up about Sun owning MySQL. All right, so that's still kind of an issue. All right, so any thoughts on WebOS Bryan app creation? Okay, I'm going to reread this question. Jackius Creed just said, any thoughts on WebOS Bryan app creation? I'm assuming that means creating Bryan applications on WebOS. I'm going to say this straight up. That's a great idea. I think that there should... Dude. Brain explosion. Okay, so check this out. WebOS is gonna be huge, and here's how. We create, and I'm assuming you mean the Palm's WebOS for the Palm side of things. Now, its web store is small, and its app store is small, and its apps are all basically web applications. They're basically just little JavaScript things, little things. We need like 1 million of them about me. That's how you know an app store has made it, is when there's 30 different Bryan applications. I do not know what those applications would do. They could be a soundboard, and I think that would be great. Actually, that's perfect.
You're doing it wrong.
Yeah, wait. All it is just a picture of me. You push my forehead, and it just says, "You're doing it wrong." All right, that sounds perfect. So, by the way, I'm going to put this out right now. I give complete carte blanche ability to do that. If anyone wants to do that, send me an email and I will say, yes, you can absolutely do that. You can charge money for it. I won't ask for a penny, as long as my name is spelled right and I think it's funny. That's the only thing, is I have to think the idea is funny, and you can make $1 million off of this, you guys. I'm serious. $1 million off poking my face and making it make noise on WebOS, but only for WebOS. No Android or iPhone apps. No, okay, I'll let you do it for Android and iPhone too. I really have no idea what your question was. Someone mentioned that Palm does need to add a compiled application option to WebOS development. They do, but it's not very. It could get a little further. Or maybe an opinion a day. Oh, they do have a lot of opinions. You could put that in a little WebOS application. No problem. All right. Um, I have no idea. All right, let's talk about Java versus C++. JZA wants to talk about Java versus C++, and I'm just going to say this straight up. Java just pwned C++ all up and down the block. It was like, hey, C++, it saw you, saw him on the other side of the street, and it just mopped him. It like C++ was like, oh, hey, Java, and just completely clobbered, drug up and down the sidewalk. The kids came out of the houses and were like cheering Java on. They're like, yeah, he's beating up C++. Also, why the heck do you need two pluses? I mean, seriously, I've never had that completely explained to me. I took quite a few classes in C++ in school, and since then, I've never really had to use much C++ work because no one develops in that anymore. It's been dead for like 30,000 years. But seriously, why two pluses? Seriously, isn't plus one good enough? It's like okay, so here's C and here's C++. Well, where's C plus go? Where was it? What was in the middle of that? You know what I mean? It just like it leaped over it. That bothers me a little bit. Yep, KDE uses C++. OpenOffice is developed in C++. Uh, C++ is a good language to learn. Someone mentioned I thought Bryan was a fan of Qt Creator. You know, I actually am. Wootsan, when I got an A++ in school, it makes me feel awesome. So C++ is awesome? It's yeah. Well, see, that's just the thing. C++ is average awesome. Wow, that's like the teacher saying you're really great. Yeah, not a B though, not a B, but really, really like top. Like of all the tards in this class, you're the best. Yeah, that's not so great. That's what C++ makes it sound like. But no, Qt Creator is great, as is the Qt framework. It's really fantastic. I'm just not a huge fan of C++ as a language. It's not bad. It's not good. It's just there, and it is utilitarian and gets the job done. And it's been around a while. It's not like it hasn't been field tested. It's not like it's the unknown out there with, ooh, will it do what we need to do? Of course it will. BIOS was built in mostly C++. And that sucker screamed, and it's just fast and great and wonderful. So much has been built in C++. It's great. Kinda. I just don't really care for the language. I feel like at this point, we've got so much memory in our systems and so much processor speed. I like to abstract things out a little bit further, and kind of move things just one step further away from the hardware. You know what I mean? I don't want to have to do my own garbage collection. I don't want to. When someone tells me I have to do my own garbage collection, it makes me feel like I'm a 5-year-old, and I just want to stomp my foot and go, no, I don't want to. And I run into my bedroom and I throw myself under the covers and I just start kicking my feet because I really, really don't want to do my own garbage collection. Because here's the thing: everyone screws up garbage collection. Everyone does. It doesn't matter how good of a developer you are. If you're developing anything over a certain amount of size in a language where you have to do your own garbage collection, you're going to screw up and you're going to have a memory leak somewhere. I just don't want to have that. Now, that you can still get memory leaks in other languages where you don't have to do garbage collection. It's just a lot harder to make that happen. Jimbo says it's good to learn a language with pointers. It lets you understand the low-level concepts. You know what? Jimbo does make a good point there. While I don't typically use C++ in hardly anything I do like that I spent some time with it. And same with C. You know what I mean? I like that I spent some time learning how things worked. You know, it's like if you just jump into, you know, Java or something like that. You don't really use char star very often. You know, you don't really have, you know, little character arrays. I mean, when was the last time you were sitting around in Java and you're like, you know what I really need here to finish this problem is I need to build a character array. No, you just declare a string because, well, why would you limit yourself to an array of 53 characters when what you really need is just a string to stick some friggin' words into it? But having to actually go through that is like it's like trial by fire almost, and it helps you appreciate what you have when later on you don't have to do that anymore. And that's, you know, there is something to be said for that. But I still don't. really, I don't really recommend it. Yeah, so Super Zonti in the chat room does point out, make a good point. So even if C++ is not preferable, it's good to learn just to know how things work. Yes, yes. Though honestly, if you're going that route, I would say learn C. Skip C++. It's not that necessary. Because really what you get with C++ is a lot of the object-oriented stuff. And if you want to learn the object-oriented stuff, jump right into Java or C Sharp or heck, learn Smalltalk. All of them in my mind do the object-oriented side of things just so much better than C++ does. Um, and for a lot of good reasons. But if you but learning C itself is just it's a very useful exercise. Even if you only spend a month or two working with it, develop like a real tiny little app in it, hit your head against the wall a few thousand times, and then move right on. But it is nice to learn. I don't know. Pascal seems like a better language to learn with. Someone in the chat room just said, "Yeah, you know what? Pascal was the de facto, de facto learning language for a long time. I mean, a lot of people point to basic and start laughing and they go, "Oh, that's basic. It says basic. That means it's easy, and that means it's stupid." But they also equate that with like education. But the reality is Pascal was like the king of educational languages for years. Um, but man, yeah, it's dead now. There's the Lazarus project, which has, and there's Free Pascal, which is fantastic. Honestly, it's one of the best compilers out there in my mind, and it's a great language. But people really just don't use it that much in commercial or open source projects anymore. It's available. There's no reason to not use it in open source. There's no reason to not use it in commercial. The licensing is very liberal on both fronts, but people just kind of have steered away from it. And I think in part it's because it got a stigma as a educational language. And it, just like BASIC, well, it didn't get the bad stigma that BASIC got. It got a pretty bad stigma, and so people just didn't stick with it. They just stopped using it. Now, Delphi from Borland was big for a while, which is what Lazarus is kind of the open source version of. And you can still find a lot of work modifying Delphi-based projects, but that's kind of slowly going away. I mean, you're not going to find that many of those. Whereas, interestingly, you'll find about 8 bajillion VB.net and ASP.net with VB developers out there and jobs out there. And Jeremy says VB.net's no good, Jeremy?
No, I was saying we're not getting any calls.
All right, guys, I'm going to give you guys 90 seconds to call in, or we're going to call it for today. And that's just how it's going to be. That's how it's going to be. And there's a giant horse behind me, you guys. This is something that you guys need to understand. There is a giant horse behind me. I hate horses. I hate horses very, very much. They scare the dickens out of me because they're huger than me by a lot. And they look like they could just step on me once and then bite my head off like it was an apple. And I don't really want to hang out with any animal that I think can do that. Like dogs. Like, I feel like even a big dog, if it gets into a fight with you, like maybe you can take it. You know what I mean? Like if you're out in the wilderness and like this crazy wolf attacks you, it's not going to be pleasant, but like you might be able to come out of that. You know what I mean? Because you got all these like fingers and stuff. You could be like and freaking out and stuff. You can bite it back, and it's like whoop, 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 whoop. A horse, you bite it back, it will kill you. It will insta kill you, and that freaks me out a little bit. Horses and hippopotamuses. Hippos will be like under the water. All you'll see is their nose, and like Jeremy would just be walking by out here, and the hippo would be like, "Oh, look, there's Jeremy." Grobble. And then Jeremy's eaten. That's it. There is no more Jeremy because a hippo just went gobble. That's just no good. Horses and hippos. Not gonna be hanging out with any of those. What the heck did you just say, Jeremy?
I think they're related.
You think that's not what you said? What'd you say before that?
I think they're in the same genus.
Oh, you said you think they're in the same genus. Yeah, that is not what I thought you said. I'll let the people at home figure out what I think Jeremy said. It does. It does rhyme. All right. So, all right. So, got a couple people say they're gonna call in, but I don't know. I'm moving my hand towards the quit Skype button here. You've got precious few moments. The only thing left to figure out is what to call this episode. It's season awesome episode mustache. It was the kind of the predominant theme, wasn't it? Oh, JZA is calling. Should we answer the phone for JZA? All right, we'll answer the phone for JZA because JZA is pimp. How's it going, man?
Hey, what's going on?
Oh, not too much. We're talking about hippos. How about you?
Yeah, you don't know, but hippos are actually more related to pigs than to horses.
They're giant, angry, hungry pigs.
I know, and to whales.
They're related to whales?
Yeah.
No way. Wait, so pigs and whales are related?
Yeah, in a weird way, yes.
Wait a minute. In a weird way, like technically, like me and Jeremy are related in a weird way, or
well,
like
they have a common ancestor. Back
so not like me and Jeremy are related. I don't think we'd have that.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't really know either. We tried to figure it out once.
He's right. Actually, hippos are called river horses.
Really?
Yeah.
So they're called river horses. All right.
Yeah.
I don't know what any of this has to do with
nothing to do with
software
these
development, but I feel like it's a really important topic just the same. So, I
Well,
appreciate.
maybe the next developing language you might call it hippo.
Oh man, dude, that would. I can't do that from the pure point of view of it would give me nightmares because if you code all day long, you go to bed dreaming about it. I would totally go to bed dreaming that a hippo was destroying me if that was the programming language I was working on.
Right, but it's powerful.
You know what? I don't want it to be powerful. I want Fuzzy Bunny. That's what I want for my next pro. I want FB, Fuzzy Bunny. And I don't want it to be powerful. In fact, I want it to be mostly useless but adorable. Like LOL code. LOL code's incredible and actually fairly powerful now. but adorable.
So next developing language should be called Codex then.
Okay, I'll go with that. Why not?
That's puffy.
Yeah.
And bleeding edge.
It sure is. All right, man. Thanks for setting us on the right path in regards to pigs and hippos.
Right. By developing, well, we were talking about Java versus C++. Well,
Yeah.
The reason why I mentioned that is mostly because really in the open world, there's just basically those two languages on the open world that can be compiled.
Yeah.
There's not that many. I mean, you have assembler, but yeah.
Yeah.
It's assembler.
Come on. Who really does that?
And that's a big gift because a lot of people want to have a fast compiled language that can be deployed and be, I guess, enterprise ready or can scale to a large processing power.
No, there's something to be said for that. Yeah.
You want a language that can speak to the machine. So, for example, if you're developing for like really high-end processors, like the cell processor.
I love how deep that sounds, though. You got to have a
resources.
language that can speak to the machine, man. And that just sounds great. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I definitely hear what you're saying. I just as a language, it just C++ is going to get the job done. It just is so, you know what I mean? Like I don't really want to use templates or anything anymore. I feel like I shouldn't have to when it's almost 2010. And 2010, I think I should be clear about this, is supposed to be the year we make contact with the things that made with the monolith and out in Europa and all that other stuff. Which not only is that not happening, but I still have to use C++. I feel like that's just rubbing salt in the wound there. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, that's another thing. Do we need a new language? Do we need a language built for the cell processor, the GPA,
Well, the
that
cell
can speak to
processor
the
is
hardware,
dead
but
now.
can
I mean,
take
IBM killed it off, but
you know what I'm saying.
I know what you're
like
saying. I know what you're saying.
next-generation processors.
Maybe. I went to a thing that Intel put on at OzCon and Ubuntu Live. I think like 2 years back. They had this little press event for something called Chirp, which is like their multi-threading framework. That's supposed to make it super easy to take existing C++ code and make it really multi-processor aware and everything like that. And there's a couple of projects like that, but they just don't seem to go anywhere. Like they just don't seem to really make the big, massive change that we all really want them to make. But like if you look back, like look at small talk. Small talk, everything was an object, right? I guess it's really the same way with BIOS, and that was always C++. But when everything is an object, it's really easy to, have this it's really easy to really work with multiple cores and multiple processors at scale to ridiculous heights. So I don't know, maybe it's just more of a problem with our current OSs than it really is a problem with our current languages. Because I guess C++ can do it. It's just meh. I don't like templates. I guess that's what it comes back to is I don't like templates. I don't want any more templates ever. I want God to smite down C++ templates. Hard.
What about Java developers? For example, on the licensing point, they basically just use left and right. Most of the Java developers, they use modules left and right.
Yeah.
They don't even care to check out the license, or they just import these huge modules and frameworks into the application, and it just creates a whole lot of code that is just there staring at you, doing nothing.
Yeah. Yeah, that sucks.
You know what I mean?
I know totally what you mean. It's one of those.
The problem with that is that first of all, they don't even care about the license, which
man, those Java developers are uncaring, man. They just don't care.
Then it's just a huge amount of code that 80% is doing nothing, and then it's impossible to debug.
Yeah, it does get to be kind of a beast to debug the really massive Java projects, but I think that's probably more just a cause from really lazy Java developers. It's like a dev who's starting to get involved in Java work, and they install a copy of NetBeans on their system, and they're like, ooh, there's like 30,000 beans. I want them all. And all of a sudden they have this giant herking application that just has way too much code in it, and it's just a beast. But, maybe that's right. Maybe that kind of comes back to, what we were talking about a little bit ago with maybe you start with a language with like C, where it's much closer to the hardware. It's much more pointery, and you grow more of an appreciation for memory management and not letting your spaghetti code get all out of control. And then when you move to something like Java, hopefully you won't make all those horrible, awful mistakes.
Right. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, but I don't want like Java to take away my ability to be a horrible developer, though. I like being a horrible developer if I want to,
All right. Okay, so I can get that. All right, so that's about it. I don't really have much else. So
hey, you know what?
What?
Thanks for calling in.
Hey, no problem.
All right, thanks, man.
Have a nice.
All right, that was JZA. JZA is pimp. That's all there is to that. JZ called in. He kicked off the whole discussion last episode too. All right, I'm going to give you guys another 60 seconds for another one to call in here, and then we're going to call it diddly done for this episode of Coding with Bryan, which is going to be episode Moustache. Wait, mustaches? Yes, it's going to be plural. It's going to be plural mustaches. I asked a question of Jeremy, and he did not realize I was asking it of him, and then he decided to make a random decision that meant nothing. I appreciated that of Jeremy. Thank you, kind sir. And this episode, of course, is brought to you by Wild Cherry Pepsi. Not at all, but I'm enjoying this Wild Cherry Pepsi like nobody's business. Everybody.
You want another one?
Hey, Chris, while you're out there at the refrigerator, could you get me another ice-cold Wild Cherry Pepsi?
You bet, Bryan.
Thanks, Chris. Ginormous mustache. All right, that's what it's called. Jeremy, write that down. This is a season awesome episode. Ginormous mustache. I'm not going to name this after hippos or horses, ladies and gentlemen. That's just not going to happen. I don't care what you say or what you do. You can just hold on to it for a moment, big guy. So Chris was going to hop in front of the camera and do his thing. All right, so I think the time is up, and we're gonna go for now. But again, if you want to get a hold of us, or me, I guess, you can email me over at Bryan@JupiterBroadcasting.com. You can check out this and all the other shows at JupiterBroadcasting.com. You can check out our forum at JupiterColony.com. We should have a coding forum.
Yeah. Like a dev forum?
Yeah. Let's just make a Coding with Bryan forum. Let's do that.
Let's do it.
Jeremy, make a Coding with Bryan forum.
Done.
All right. There'll be a Coding with Bryan forum at some point over there once Jeremy gets off his butt, and that'll happen. You can also follow me on Twitter at twitter.com/BryanLunduke, over at my blog at lunduke.com. I have way too many URLs to give out. This is freaking ridiculous. Also, you can follow all of our information on Facebook at facebook.com/Jupiter Broadcasting. We need to just consolidate and get like one like tiny URL that points to like a landing page with bookmarks. Because just go to this place and click everything and see what happens. It's ridiculous. Right. So, okay, I'm going to head on out, everybody. And I want to thank everyone for tuning in. Next episode we're going to do it a little differently. We're going to talk for about 20 minutes, maybe 25 minutes. We'll just chit chat. Not recorded. It's going to be off the record. Then the show's going to start. And then you guys are going to call in like nobody's business. Am I right? Am I right, ladies and guys? Ladies and guys? What do you think? I don't like saying ladies and gentlemen anymore. I like ladies and guys. That's what we're going to call it now. Chicks and dudes. I do like that too. Nah, I like ladies and guys. It sounds wronger somehow. Like it sounds horrible. Anyway, I'm getting the "this show is not fun at all" signal from Jeremy. So I want to head on out right now. And I will see everyone later on. Are we stopped?